What Robert Jenrick actually was supposedly hijacked by the Guardian yesterday in saying.
In Birmingham the other day to do a video on litter, and it was absolutely appalling. It's as close as I've come to a slum in this country. But the other thing that I noticed there was that it was one of the worst integrated places that I've ever been to. In fact, in the hour and a half that I was filming with news there, I didn't see another white face. And that's not the kind of country I want to live in. I want to live in a country where people are properly integrated. It's not about the colour of your skin or your faith. Of course it isn't. But I want people to be living alongside each other, not parallel lives. That's not the right way we want to live as a country.
And when he spoke to us yesterday, Robert Jenrick said this.
Yeah, well, I don't resile from those comments at all, and obviously it was The Guardian who stuck them out there.
Of course.
We want to live in a country which is well integrated, where people are living side by side. We don't want segregated pockets of our towns and cities. We don't want ghettos in this country. I want my kids to be growing up alongside their fellow Brits of all skin colours and faiths. And I'm afraid that hasn't happened in recent years. This is a problem that's got worse in my lifetime, not better. In the last 20 years, there have been at least 6 major reports into the integration failures of our country, including by very, very prominent people like Baroness Louise Casey. People don't do anything about it. And then you've got these left-wing politicians, the Labour Party today, journalists like at The Guardian, coming down on people and trying to shut down the debate, labelling them as racist, the same old story, trying to stop people talking about this issue. And I'm afraid at the extremes, this takes the country down a very dark path. Here in Manchester, just last week, you saw a man who'd lived in this country for 30 years, clearly was not integrated, did not share British values, go to a local mosque and kill British Jews. That is where a failure of integration goes in the end. So we've got to have this debate. I'm not backing down. I'm not going to be cowed. That's not my way. I'm going to make sure we keep talking about this.
And so he is. Let's talk to Esther McVey, MP, former Minister for Common Sense. Esther, very good morning to you.
And to you, you always cheer me up, Mike.
Well, I'll tell you what, Robert Jenrick has picked a plum out of a basket and kind of made it into something, because an awful lot of people are very kind of galvanised by this story today, because The Guardian sort of tried to out him yesterday as some kind of racist. I saw the coverage on Sky, the BBC, ITV as well, trying to make out that he'd said something terrible. But, you know, my listeners and viewers are saying, no, he's actually said something truthful, and he's highlighted a problem which exists in quite a lot of the parts of this country that very few of us people, generally speaking, go to.
And he talked about integration, and there wasn't any, and it was segregation there. And he talked about where he'd been. It was an observation of what he'd seen, and this is happening in other parts of the country. My husband used to represent a seat in the Bradford area, and we could say the same about Bradford too. And what do these people not want, these Guardian journalists, these lefty journalists? Are we not allowed to talk about what we're seeing with our own eyes, the concerns we've got? Are we not allowed to talk about that? Are these taboo subjects? And haven't we had that for so long and have been at the roots of many problems? People would say the rape gang inquiries weren't investigated because people did not want to talk about different races, religions, different cultures within the country. I think it is refreshing. I think it is positive. I think that is the only way you get to the nub of an issue is by actually talking about something. And yes, if a leak to The Guardian, who thought they were going to expose him as being out of touch and wrong, has been what has shone a light on this, well, good. Because actually I think it's a subject a lot of people do want to talk about and don't want to be cowed from talking about.
No, exactly right. Because it's the kind of thing that leads to where we are right now, you know, where people are putting up flags because they feel like their nation is being assaulted in some way by so many migrants coming here from overseas, not just illegally on the small boats, but also legally coming in to study and overstaying their visas, coming into work, overstaying their visas. You know, it feels for an awful lot of people in this country country that Britain is changing before their very eyes, and they haven't been allowed to talk about it. You know, when Gary Neville spoke at the weekend and said, you know, why did I never see any Union Jacks, you know, 10, 15 years ago? People have said to me, because people were too frightened to talk about it. People were too scared to say they wanted to raise a flag, the flag of St George, because they were going to be called a racist. Now they've had enough, and they're starting to revolt.
And there was something about and people talk about it, the metropolitan elite or the Westminster bubble. And it was sometimes frowned upon, as something you wouldn't do, something we don't talk about in polite conversation. And the reality is people want to be proud of their country, and they're seeing this segregation, not integration. And they're now saying, we've been pushed to the limit. And actually, we do want to make a stance. And the stance is, this is Britain, and we are proud of Britain. And they're also sending out a message. If you are here, if you are living and being accommodated in Great Britain, then you too need to be proud of Britain. And you too need to be proud of our history and our heritage and our culture.
Yeah, exactly right. It's not too much to ask, is it? And in fact, even now, we've got the Labour government, because they're running scared of reform, saying that, you know, when people come into this country, they have to speak good English, they have to be free of a criminal record of any kind, they're going to have to be good citizens, they might have to do some decent work around, you know, charities and that sort of thing. You know, so even they have admitted that what they need is decent immigration, not just any immigration.
If you were let into anywhere, a restaurant, a club, a school, a bar, or whatever, you say, this is the rules of our organisation. Yeah. And if you want to come here, you need to live by them and abide by them. I mean, if you think, this is a wonderful place to come, well, for it to remain a wonderful place, to be Great Britain, to have the history and the culture that we've got, the tolerance that we've got, then you have to abide by that too. And I don't think that's too much to ask for.
No, I really don't think it is. Let me talk to you about the Tory party conference. I don't know whether you're up there, whether you've been up there. People say to me it's all looking a bit grim, it's all a bit quiet, there's not that many attendees as there normally are, there's no money, there's no sponsors. I mean, is the Tory party dying, I think is the question.
Right, so I've been there every day. I am fortunate enough to live close enough by that I can go in and out and not have to pay those extortionate prices that they do when the party conference is on. So I've been coming back and forth. Right, so I think, yes, you're right, it's quieter. Yes, there are fewer people there. Well, what do you think? We've just had a tonking at the general election a year ago. So, of course, we're rebuilding. However, what I would say, and having been to party conferences for at least 25 years, there is a positive attitude there. So it is a feeling of refresh, renewal, and starting again. So are the crowds smaller? Yes, that is true. But is the mood positive? Yes. And I remember the party conferences of 2001, 2 and 3, and that wasn't so positive. I also know the Labour conference in Liverpool was poisonous because they were looking to oust Starmer. So you know the differences, because there will be groups collecting and talking about different things. I also think that Kemi Badenoch, before we went to the party conference, sort of set out her stall, didn't she, about net zero, this fantasy of net zero and these artificial guidelines. They need to go. They're pushing people into poverty. Our energy prices are higher than pretty much anywhere else in the world. It is not working for us as individuals or businesses. Tick. We've been calling for that for ages, thank goodness. I would have liked it to have been said a year ago, but hey, this is our party conference, she's saying it now. And also talking about immigration, what you've got to do. She's saying, come out of the ECHR, tick, we've needed to say that for a while, and also for me, out of the Human Rights Act, and it's about the economy. So I'd say it was positive, but much smaller numbers. And I had my event last night, which was blue collar Conservatives, and it was full. We had great speakers, and we did have drinks and some nibbles on, you see. So that was where it was at, the Blue Party, the Blue Collar Conservative Party last night. Okay. So that's how I viewed it.
All right. Let me ask you about one final thing. I mean, Keir Starmer's off to India. God knows why. He claims he's not going to be offering any more visas to anybody, but you can't really believe a word he says. Meanwhile, the CPS, the place that he used to run, have basically confirmed that number 10 Downing Street and Keir Starmer effectively blocked their prosecution ability on this China spy case because they wouldn't give them any information. And it all apparently stems from Jonathan Powell, or sometimes known as Jonathan Pole, who didn't want to have to go into a court of law and call China the enemy, and called China a threat and called China a national security issue. So therefore they just blanked the CPS, and the CPS are now being quite critical, saying Director of Public Prosecution Stephen Parkinson now has revealed that the case collapsed just as it was about to go to trial. Despite being pressed for more than a year, Downing Street declared that they wouldn't give them any help. It seems extraordinary that Keir Starmer, a man who prides himself on his whole, career at the CPS as the public prosecutor, and he keeps talking about how I used to prosecute the bad guys, I know all about the law, is apparently not cooperating with them.
Yeah, you've got the right word there, Mike. Extraordinary that a DPP, the current one, is criticising the former one, saying you have held this information and this case has collapsed. So I think this is extraordinary. And then again, Keir Starmer supposedly doesn't know what's going on. He had a fleeting read or a speed read through what was going on. Come on, give me a break. That seems to be his excuse for everything. It doesn't matter whether it was Lucy Connolly, he had a speed read through that. It doesn't matter whether it's this. It doesn't matter whether it was Mandelson. He doesn't know what's going on. And if he doesn't know about things like this, then I have to say, what does he know that is going on? It also sends out a green light here, doesn't it? If the Chinese can spy with impunity, well, they can do it now, they can do it in the future, and it means any other country can spy on this, on our country. And I don't want to drop Jonathan Powell, drop him in the lurch here, blame him. This is the government's response.
Yeah.
Starmer is always looking to blame somebody else. Now, I'm afraid, Starmer, the buck stops with you. And I'm sure there are things that Jonathan Powell said too, but please, it was the government who didn't give the response. Yeah. And Starmer. So let's all keep pointing. The finger always goes to Starmer, not anybody else. Yeah. And that's why he's still there, isn't he? He's sort of, and now he's fled the country again, which is what we know he does. Keir, never here. Now he's in India, because that's what he does when the going gets tough, he gets going.
He does, and unfortunately it's at our expense as well. Esther, good to talk to you. Thanks very much indeed. Esther McVey MP, former Minister for Common Sense, of course, still saying the Tory party is not yet dead, and it's alive and well, and she's very much still a part of it.